More now on the impeachment inquiry. We can bring in Melanie Sloan. She's a former federal prosecutor and partner at the crisis management firm Summer Strategy. She's joining us from Washington, D.C. Thanks very much for speaking to us. So how significant is it that Mike Pompeo was not only on the call, but is now accused of trying to prevent people from the State Department from testifying? And we heard Adam Schiff speaking about this just a short while ago at that press conference.
Well, it's not just that Secretary Pompeo is accused of that, of trying to prevent people from talking to the Senate, the House Intelligence Committee. He's specifically stated that. Pompeo has said himself that people can't go, and several people are going anyway. For one, Kurt Volker, the former envoy, has already agreed that he is in fact going to testify. The former Ukrainian ambassador is going to testify next week, and it is completely reasonable that House Intelligence Chair Adam Schiff said that he would draw, the committee would draw a negative inference that Mr. Pompeo was attempting to obstruct justice by preventing people from coming forward. I think the real question is also, what did the Secretary, the Inspector General over at the State Department say this morning? Apparently there was a meeting between the House Intelligence Committee and the IG, and he had asked for an urgent meeting to discuss documents that he wanted to share from the State Department. So I'm sure we'll be learning more about that in the coming days. But it's clearly ramping. The investigation is ramping up. They're moving full steam ahead. It was also interesting that Mr. Schiff noted that he and Elijah Cummings, who's the chair of the House Oversight Committee, were going to be issuing subpoenas to the White House in addition. That's going to undoubtedly result in a full-fledged battle. We won't be surprised at all to see this wind up in the courts. Yeah,
we really got a sense from Adam Schiff on how quickly, you may say, the Democrats are moving ahead with this investigation when he said we're proceeding deliberately and we feel a sense of urgency. But at the same time, when you look at President Trump's tweets, for example, what he's saying, as well as some of the Republicans, is that they're likening this to a coup. What's your reaction to that?
Well, obviously, that's ridiculous. The United States Constitution imagines the concept of impeachment. It's right there in the four corners of the document. So that's not a coup for the House to go forward with its constitutional authority to investigate the president and consider impeachment. At the same time, this is a White House that has shown that it's willing to amp up its response at any moment and try to rally supporters with extreme language. That's not at all unusual. And we also know that the president is not all that interested in complying. They were very recalcitrant in responding to the Mueller investigation. Mr. Mueller never required Mr. Trump to testify personally and back down from the fight with the White House. And I don't think Adam Schiff, however, is going to back down in the same way. So when they issue subpoenas to the White House and the White House refuses to comply, I think we'll find the matter in the federal courts, and it will be very interesting to see how that goes, particularly in light of, in another case yesterday, a federal judge, a well-respected Republican appointed federal judge, talked about how this is a dark time, and he is concerned about obstruction at the White House.
Are you getting a sense at all how much public appetite there is for this impeachment inquiry going forward?
Well, new polls issued today show that the public is increasingly supportive of impeachment. So while Trump's base still is with him and the president has raised record amounts of campaign cash, more and more of the public is concerned. And as we see the State Department, the Secretary of State refusing to comply with subpoena, and we can also expect to see subpoenas issued to Bill Barr over at the Department of Justice, given that he has been traveling the world attempting to gain information to combat to support Mr. Trump's view of the Mueller investigation. We could expect to see subpoenas there. I mean, there's now a new report that Mr. Trump was attempting to ask Boris Johnson over in England, in the UK, to also help him go against the Mueller investigation and the Russia probe. So there's more and more of this contact with foreign leaders for potentially improper purposes, and I think we're going to be learning so much more about all of this in the coming days.
All right, Melanie Sloan, thank you for speaking to us from Washington.